I'm Anthony Ranaudo, and this is the Big Easy Sports Talk Podcast.
Hey everyone, welcome to the Big Easy Sports Talk Podcast. Today we have a special guest. His name is Anthony Ranaudo. You do know him from the 2009 LSU Baseball World Series champion team. He was also drafted by the Boston Red Sox in 2010, and he's also played for the Rangers, the White Sox, and he's also played in Korea. Anthony, welcome to the show.
First off, thanks for having me, man. I'm really excited to be on here. Love your guys' show. So, yeah, man, it was, I played here 2009. I came here from New Jersey. I was here in the 2008, 2009, 2010 years, and I played here, still here, living here in Louisiana. The program has opened so many doors for me. Coach Maneri is like a second father to me, and some of the guys on the team from our 2009 team and before, and even in the 2008, 2009 team, 2010 team, these guys are like brothers to me. We have a huge group chat going still. 10 years later, we just had our 10-year reunion. But yeah, no, LSU is the pinnacle of college baseball, and I'm very fortunate that I played here.
Anthony, it's hard to say for the first time in a very long time that Paul Maneri's team has not had a great record this year. They've been up and down recently, too, as well. What's been going on here with the LSU baseball team this year?
You know, it's a weird thing because technically, if you look at it, it's more of a disappointing year. It is, like you said, in terms of Coach Maneri era, a down year technically, but I think it's because of the expectations that we put on these kids and this team coming into this year. We had a down year last year. We had a great recruiting class. Nolan Cain did an incredible job bringing in the number one rated recruiting class, and we put these crazy lofty expectations on this team to go out there and perform. And a lot of these guys are younger. It's their first taste of college baseball. It's their first time having performance and anxiety and expectation anxiety and different things like that are all part of the growing up process. So, yeah, it was a little bit of a disappointing year, but they battled some injuries, and I really like the momentum that they're taking into the postseason right now. They played really well. They had a great showing at the SEC tournament. They came up a little short. But just like most of Coach Maneri's teams, this year's team is hopefully coming together at the right time. Their younger guys are starting to settle into some of their roles. They're starting to get healthier. And I think you're going to see a lot more confidence out on the field this weekend, and hopefully they can ride that momentum from the SEC tournament. Bring it here to LSU, get on that wave, maintain that momentum, and hopefully win a regional and take that momentum into the super regional.
Yeah, I mean the last time that we saw them, they were going through that 17 innings against Mississippi State, and then having to come back and find a way to miraculously win, and then all of a sudden, and then you got to play Vanderbilt and kind of getting blown out there. So it's just a spectrum of different types of play and emotion from LSU. So it seems like it's really hard to gauge about what they're going to do going forward. But I mean, I don't think they've lost a regional in a really long time that I can remember. What's your prediction for the regional and super regional for LSU this year?
Yeah, I'm a big proponent, man, of I really like when teams are playing well at the right time. And even though, like you said, they came up short, they got blown out by Vandy in that last game. But like you said, there was a lot of innings played. We played a 17-inning game. I would still say 10 years later. It's unbelievable. But they played. They hopefully they can ride that momentum into the regional. I think they're going to pull it out. I really do. That's not to say that they don't have a huge challenge ahead of them. I'm friends with a couple of guys on the team, and I just kind of know a little bit of the makeup of these guys and these younger guys. The coaching staff are some of my best friends. Nolan Cain, I stood in his wedding. Sean Ochinko is one of my best friends in the world. Micah Gibbs I stood in his wedding. Nate Fury is one of my best friends. So I have a little bit of insight towards the team, and the way that the team is coming together right now is pretty exciting. Stony Brook is going to be no small challenge as a 4 seed, the first game that they have. If you remember, I think it was 2013, the year that they had Kevin Gosman as the number 4 overall pick. Or wherever he got picked, they came into Alex Box and beat them in a super regional, which was crazy. A small team from New York came in and as the underdog and beat us. So you know their coach and their program has confidence coming in here and they're playing with a little chip on their shoulder to go take out LSU in the regional. And like you said, LSU hasn't lost a regional in a long time at home, and Stony Brook's going to come with the heat. So I think it's going to be an initial challenge that's going to set them off tomorrow night, and hopefully they respond well and they ride that momentum. I mean, Arizona State, Southern Miss. I mean, this is a loaded regional. It really is. But like I said, if the team can carry some of that momentum, even though they didn't win the tournament, they played really, really well and winning some crazy games with crazy swings at the end. You saw that pass ball and the error and the overthrow to score that winning run. Sometimes those are the things that a team needs to just breathe a little easier. Something that'll make the guys laugh a little bit and come together and make them have those memories and laugh a little bit and come a little closer. So hopefully those types of games will ride over into the regional, and we'll see a different LSU team this weekend than maybe some of the games that we saw earlier this year.
You know, Anthony, I was an intern there for LSU Athletics in 2014, and just seeing the atmosphere of people coming in and, wanting to watch an LSU baseball game, it's something special. When the players start coming out, all of a sudden Callin' Baton Rouge comes on, and everybody's getting fired up. What are your feelings and emotions coming out to a crowd like that at LSU?
Man, I'm still getting chills. I hadn't pitched in a long time at Alex Box Stadium, but I was fortunate enough to be the Friday night guy in my sophomore and junior year. And I pitched a lot of games in professional baseball. I played on a lot of major league fields and pitched in a lot of cool stadiums. And I'm not downplaying that, but some of the chills and the experiences that you get walking out at Alex Box Stadium and feeling that energy, like you said, there's a different energy in that stadium. And I think it stems from LSU fans being so damn passionate, man. They're just, how it is here. And there's no major league team. You have Houston that's 4 or 5 hours away and some other teams that play regionally on TV here. But overall, this is their major leagues. This is what the fans are coming for. This is what kids are growing up watching. This is what kids are growing up wanting to play at. So you feel even in the energy amongst your teammates. I was from New Jersey, and I could feel my teammates from Louisiana putting on that jersey and feeling so proud. And I knew what it meant to be an LSU Tiger immediately because of those types of players, families, kids, the fans, and even the legacy that you feel at Alex Box Stadium. And walking out to that tunnel, and for me, I was always pitching, like you said, Friday night. So I would walk out, it would be 5:30, it would just be getting dusk. It would just the sun would start going down, and like you said, you could smell some of the concessions. I'm telling you, I still feel it to this day, the energy that I would feel walking down the line, getting ready to go warm up for a huge Friday night game, and especially even postseason. That's where it gets really fun. Sometimes you're playing in the opposite dugout because you know how they do that with the regional. You might be an away team. So I remember one of my best games I ever pitched in college was we were sitting in the opposite dugout, and it was real trippy coming off the field after an inning going a different way. But that's all the kind of stuff that creates the excitement in the box in the postseason, and those are the kind of memories that I have looking back, and I know a lot of my teammates do too. And then obviously you throw in, we were fortunate enough to win. I think my freshman year we won a regional, my sophomore year we won the regional at home, and then both those years we clinched and went to Omaha as well. So we won a super regional. So we got to do the whole lap around the field. We got to shake the hands with the fans and do all that stuff. It was pretty incredible.
Yeah, and to go back to that Mississippi State game again, the one that was 17 innings, you got to think everybody's exhausted and you're using all type of players. As a pitcher and being in that rotation, what is going through the mind and how is it set up for you guys as either a starter or a relief pitcher or a closer? What is the process that you guys are going through while, all these innings are starting to pile up?
Yeah, it's a weird thought system after maybe the 11th and 12th inning. Like when the 11th and 12th inning comes, there's something in baseball, I'm telling you, when you're in the dugout especially, that something happens and you're like, oh no, this could be one of those, like that's where you start saying this is going to get long. You start looking down the dugout, who hasn't pitched yet. You start trying to put different guys in different scenarios, trying to figure out when they pitched last. Are we going to use a position player? When are we going to use a position player? So a lot of thoughts run through your head. And Coach Maneri did a great job always of preparing us because especially in the postseason, you have to have an understanding that everything's on the line, everything that you worked for. And so roles are very important, but at the same time, the name on the front of the jersey for us always rang true. So there was times in my junior year that I came out of the bullpen in situations that I'd never been in before, and one of them was in an extra inning game against Alabama, and I think I pitched the 10th, 11th, and 12th inning after a rain delay after pitching 3 days before that as a starter. So there's just unique situations, and I think the coaching staff ultimately does a great job of, or at least when I was there, and I know some of the coaches, like I said now, of putting guys in the right positions to succeed. They also prepare them, mentally, physically, all of that to be in those unique situations. And when those situations arise, that this is LSU and we are ready for this occasion. And I think that's what you saw the other night. Like I said, it was a crazy game, and in those situations, you just hope that your seniors, your older veteran guys are kind of, coaching the younger kids through it, because Coach Maneri can't micromanage everything in those situations. So hopefully Zach Hess is grabbing a guy and putting his arm around him and saying, hey, just be prepared in this situation. You might be used, maybe even some of the guys like Devin Fontenot, who's starting to turn into a veteran now in certain roles, might be educating some of the younger kids when they be coming in. And it's little things like that where some of the veterans even take responsibility and help out with some of those roles and prepare guys for different situations.
Yeah, and I have a story that I think you'll appreciate since you're, a pitcher. During the internship, we would go through operational things at the stadium to kind of get, fans prepared and, people in the door and everything. And I was brought up to the press box to do some stuff, and I thought maybe, okay, they're going to have me doing some visuals or audio or maybe the scoreboard or something. This is going to be interesting. Get to learn about that. And they sit me in front of this box, and it's called a pitch clock. And I'm like, what is this? I have never heard of this. You think of, you think of like the NBA or NFL, they have a, like a play clock or the shot clock or, whatever to kind of speed the game up. But, I mean, I've never heard of something like that for an actual baseball game. I've never really seen anything. And so I'm getting in there and I'm pressing reset and start and stop. And it makes you kind of understand how the game actually processes with the umpire looking at you, and saying, hey, to kind of get the game rolling. And it's like, okay, this kind of makes sense. It's helping the game kind of go along faster. Was there ever any kind of like stupid kind of like innocent penalty or anything as a pitcher that you had, whether it was like some kind of like foul or error or anything that you're just kind of like, oh, come on, man?
I can't think of anything crazy like that. I do remember when I was at LSU, though, it was junior year when, so we won the national championship my sophomore year. And I'm sure you've probably heard in sports, it's one of the hardest things to do to repeat as a champion. And it's because you have all these expectations. You think you're going to roll into this and, everybody's going to lay down for you anyway. We were hitting our stretch my junior year of when we started struggling, that year after the championship. And it was right around when I was coming off an injury too. We were playing Alabama. We had a big lead, not a big lead, but we had a lead in the sixth inning, and I was pitching, and we should have closed it out. I think we were up like 6-1, 2 or something like that. And I walked the guy, and then an error, and then there was a ball down the line. The guy was literally fouling it off. He turned his back because he knew it was foul, and the umpires called it fair. And the guy actually had to start running after he knew his back was turned, and he wound up getting a double. 2 runs scored. The next guy wound up getting a hit. I was so flustered. I did a terrible job of slowing the game down. They wound up tying the game at 6-6 in the sixth. Coach Maneri came and took me out, and it was like, I was just like, what the hell just happened? Like, we were just winning. We were cruising 6-1. Stupid, like one of those things where it was just like a chopper that clearly foul, took a terrible hop, and the umpire just missed it and just ruined the game for us, and actually set the tone for the series. We wound up losing 2 out of 3. They hit a go-ahead home run like the top of the ninth on Sunday to beat us or something crazy like that, and it was just interesting the way it kind of rolled out that way.
Yeah, and one of the great things there, too, at LSU for baseball, Skip Bertman hangs around and kind of like, keeps up with the players and the coaches and the fans. And one of my favorite things that, doing my internship there was that he kind of brought in people who wanted to tour the stadium and kind of brought them through. And he would be walking in front of him, but at a very slow pace. And eventually, by the time he's finished talking to them, they're already way ahead of him. But he's such a nice guy. He was at the luncheon that we were at, and just a straight shooter, and just talk to you. Love the game of baseball. Did you have any type of story or anything? Talking with Skip Bertman.
Yeah. So one of my things that I always tell people is Skip Bertman is one of the most extraordinary human beings, not because of some of the things that he's accomplished. I mean, obviously because of the things that he's accomplished on the field, but for me, it was how sharp this man was, how crisp his memory was. I'll tell you a quick story. My recruiting visit, I came in randomly on like a Thursday or Friday with the way my schedule worked out, and I couldn't come for a weekend. But part of the trip was to go meet the athletic director because the athletic director was Skip Bertman at the time. So Skip has all these great stories and he's telling all these things. He's we're up in the AD suite overlooking Tiger Stadium doing all those things. And it was all part of the trip, and it was great, And I at the time, I didn't even understand who the man was, and magnitude of the situation. And I committed. The next year, I came down as a freshman. He resigned as AD, and then we had a new AD. 10 years go by, 11 years go by. I brought my father up to the suites last year, my first year out of LSU playing. And this is 11 years later now. That was the fall of 2007. This was 2018 baseball season last year. And my dad said, "Hey, that's Skip, huh?" And I was like, "Yeah, let's go. And I'll introduce you." He's like, "Oh, I met him on your visit. Remember?" I was like, "Oh, that's right. I'm sure he won't remember you. We'll just shake his hand." We go up. As we're walking up, Mr. Angelo Ranaudo. He remembered my dad's name. 11 years later, how many times did that man meet recruits that hadn't committed, that had committed, whatever it was? But he remembered my dad's first and last name, gave him a hug like it was. He remembered the conversations that we talked about. I didn't even remember them. And I was just like blown away, and that's when I was like, this man is who everybody says he is because of little things like that. He made my dad feel like $1 million in that situation because my dad felt like the man when Skip came up and gave him a hug and said Angelo or Mr. Ranaudo, and it was pretty amazing, and that's my biggest Skip story where I know when Skip's legacy is moving on and I'm telling my kids about it, it'll be something like that I'll be able to share with them. He's a pretty extraordinary man.
Yeah, that's awesome to hear. The last thing that I wanted to talk about in regards to LSU was, big controversy that went on, earlier this year with the Will Wade situation in basketball. It comes down to he ends up getting caught on a wiretap, talking about one of the players that he's, helping them out or, in other words. And it ends up where Joe Oliva, the actual AD, gets fired for this. What are your thoughts about the process of that, in the NCAA kind of doing investigations with players and recruiting, and kind of how does recruiting happen? Like, what are the things that are going on, and do you ever get any type of offers like that where you kind of have to be like, I'm going to stay away from this in terms of, violation?
Yeah, I was actually having this conversation with somebody the other day. I was never, maybe it was because of the way I was raised, and maybe if it does happen in college sports, it never happened to me. And I know some people looked at me crazy when I said that, but I swear on my life, I don't know if it was because of the way I was raised or anything. I was never offered one thing, or maybe I was just blind to it and ignorant and didn't understand when I was here what was happening, if that's what's happening. I never heard of any of my friends doing it, and maybe, like I said, it was because I was so straight-laced when I was at LSU. But I do know that the culture is very muddy, and there's so many different stories that you hear about these kids and scenarios, and you understand that there's so much money being made off of their image and likeness. And I think it's just a bigger topic of conversation that we need to just keep exploring and having. And I think it's one that we're never going to really resolve until, some legality gets involved and the NCAA starts taking responsibility and opening up, some possibilities and ideas. I'm not really sure of how the structure has to go because those tend to get very, very muddy very quick when you start talking about the size of sports teams and how much guys play and which guys actually make money for the program. So I think there's so many different situations and scenarios that it can go down as. But I think that the NCAA and it's just a topic that we got to continue to develop and talk, because I don't think it's fair that Coach Wade and the coach over at Arizona, have to go on public trial and nowadays with the media, get faced with a lot of different things that might not even be true, or there might not be enough evidence, or it might just be the culture of the game and the way it goes and the way that he said it may have just sounded differently. I'm not really sure. And honestly, I didn't educate myself on the situation until I heard all the facts. And once Coach Wade was reinstated, I knew that there weren't enough facts for me to go back and dive into what actually was said or what was happened. I just know how I feel about Coach Wade. I've met him a few times. I've gone to their practices. I know how hard the man works. I know how intelligent the man is, and I know how much his players and coaches respect and look up to him. And ultimately, the man has treated me with respect and dignity, and I've never, heard a bad word or anything about him. So I know how I have to treat him and how I viewed the situation. And I'm happy for him and his family, and ultimately LSU for the way it shook out. I had a personal relationship with Joe Oliva as well, so it was tough to see the AD go. But sometimes in situations and politics and especially sports and situations like this, somebody has to take a fall, and I think Joe took that responsibility. And like I said, I don't know all the facts and I don't know all the details exactly, but it is a unique situation. And I think that the NCAA, I think universities, I think state schools especially, that have a lot of funding need to keep continuing to develop different strategies and talks to go over the best way to handle these situations going forward.
Yeah, I mean, and speaking of, keeping the conversation going, you and Jared Mitchell, both former LSU guys on the baseball team, started a podcast. What's the name of the podcast? What are you guys going over, and who are some of the guests you guys got coming on?
Yeah, absolutely. Thanks for asking. Yeah, so Jared and I, we played ball together in '09. We're still really, really good friends. We live in Baton Rouge together and train in the off seasons. He's out playing independent ball with the Sugarland Skeeters right now. But we came together and we just realized that our Rolodex, our network, some information and things that we've learned over the years, combined with the technology and media and outlets and resources that we have to pass on our knowledge, it seemed ignorant, and it seemed like a responsibility that we had to pass that knowledge on. So we kind of put our resources and our minds together to figure out a way to do this. We were going to do lessons or facility, but then we thought that we would reach a bigger audience if we did a podcast or a TV show or YouTube series. So that's exactly what we did. It's called the Up and In Show, where we sit down, interview style, fireside chat style, and we ask people around the games that we're involved in: sports, athletics, healthcare, all different types of people. And we sit them down, we ask them about their story and different ways that they attain success, different things that they're doing in their communities to make a difference, different ways they're influencing people, and different ways they're motivating people. And I just really wanted to tell other people's stories to help educate people underneath me. I know that when I was a kid, I grew up in Jersey, and there weren't a lot of kids getting college scholarships, and I didn't really know what to do until I met a guy named Jack Cust Sr., whose son was a first rounder and had college scholarship offers and got drafted out of, and the man gave me infinite knowledge of, just all the different things that I needed to know going through that process. And I was like, you know what, I want to start something like that for other kids. And if I can help one other kid, two other kids, Jared was on board. We saw the vision and we just went and did it. We partnered with a great company here in town, and now we're doing a thing, and it's really going well. So I'm really excited. Our first 6 interviews were AJ Andrews, who's a professional softball player, played at LSU. She was an All-American. We had Will Harris, who was a MLB All-Star, pitched at LSU. Kevin Gosman, who's pitching in the MLB right now, who played at LSU. A guy named Ryan Verdugo, who's actually pitching over in Taiwan, who pitched at LSU and in the major leagues. A kid named Alex Lang, who was the first rounder out of LSU 2 years ago, and he's in the Chicago Cubs organization. And then we interviewed Lexi Priestman, who was an LSU All-American and USA gymnast. And she just graduated, and she's venturing off into her first business opportunity. So just kind of highlighting some of the people that are in our network that are doing great things amongst themselves, and just trying to put that out there, use our resources and our platforms to let other people know what other people are doing to impact their community, make moves, and educate and help others. So that's kind of the premise behind it. And honestly, it was just to connect and like I said, just to keep putting ourselves out there, extending our knowledge and helping as many people as we can through our platforms.
Yeah, and we saw that you actually filled in for Matt Moscano's show, I think on the 28th this month. How did it feel to get some live action on ESPN radio, and did it help your confidence with your podcast going forward?
Absolutely. It was that was my first live experience. So that was really cool. A little bit of pressure, and Matt actually dropped it on me the day before. I guess his other fill-in had backed out last minute on Memorial Day, so Matt reached out to me at 3:00, and I had to start doing some prep work. But it was really, really cool because I got to see how he operates. I've been a big fan of Matt and his show for a long time. I was on his show 3, 4, 5 times maybe as a guest. So it was really cool to be on the other side of the mic, see how he works, see how his system operates. And yes, I think all the experience that I got from that is going to continue to help me develop my skills behind the mic. Hopefully going to help me with the podcast, because I saw how, like I said, how he prepped for his show, some of the details that go into it, and it was pretty badass.
And Anthony, where can we find the podcast, and how can we find you on social media?
Absolutely. So the podcast website is upandinShow.com. My Instagram is Anthony_Ranaudo. That's Ranaudo. And then also Our Instagram is upandin.show. And then you can find all our links through there, and we do some stuff on Twitter, but those are our main outlets. And then through our Instagram, you can go find our YouTube page. We have a link tree link in our bio, and you can find our website. You can find our YouTube channel, and soon we will be on 104.5 ESPN. We will be on their outlet and using their audio and visual systems as well.
Well, Anthony, thank you so much for joining us here on the Big Easy Sports Talk podcast. We hope everything goes well with Up and In, and thanks again for being on.
No, thank you for having me. I really appreciate it.
Hey, listeners, we are looking for best friends. That's right. You could be our next best friend. You can do this by following us on iTunes Podcast, and you can also subscribe to our YouTube channel, which you can find clips there as well.